She took over my parking spot for furniture and then told me to park on the street instead. It is 6 in the morning. She is already running late for work, and there is a car sitting in her only way out. Not for the first time. Not even close to the first time. And the person responsible is asleep upstairs, dead to the world after a night of drinking, completely unbothered by the fact that he has just made her morning a living nightmare, again. And the kicker. The absolute kicker. When she finally gets the car moved and goes about her day, her neighbor texts her and has the nerve to suggest that maybe she should just park on the street going forward. To avoid the inconvenience. The inconvenience that someone else is causing. Let me take you back to the beginning of this situation, because the full picture here is important if you really want to understand just how unreasonable things have gotten. Our narrator lives in a lower unit of a two-family home owned by her cousin. Her upstairs neighbor is not some stranger, not some random person she found on Craigslist. This is a woman she has known for years. A woman who was her brother's college roommate. A woman who has been to her family functions, who her parents have taken under their wing, who is practically woven into the fabric of her family. They have always had a close, easy relationship. The kind where you leave your door open and your neighbor just walks in sometimes. The kind where you do not sweat the small stuff because you trust the person and you know they trust you back. The kind of relationship that feels less like a landlord-tenant situation and more like an extension of home itself. You know each other's habits. You know each other's moods. You share a building the way only people with real history can, with a kind of casual ease that takes years to build and only exists when both people have genuinely chosen to nurture it. The driveway situation started simply enough. There is a parking pad in the back of the property that fits exactly 2 cars without anyone getting blocked in. That is it. 2 spots, clean and simple, designed so that both residents could come and go independently without any coordination or conflict. Then the winter parking ban lifted and the neighbor came to her with a request. She had just bought outdoor furniture, a sectional, a rug, a fire pit, and she wanted to use the parking pad to set all of it up for the warmer months. That meant giving up one of the 2 spots entirely. And our narrator, being the good neighbor and longtime friend that she is, said yes. No drama, no negotiation, no hesitation. Just yes. She adjusted her routine, started parking in the driveway as her main spot, and let the neighbor have the rest of the pad for her furniture. She probably felt good about that decision. She probably felt like the kind of generous, easygoing person who does not make things harder than they need to be. She gave something up and expected nothing in return, because that is what you do for someone you actually care about. But that is not where things ended. Because the neighbor has a boyfriend. A boyfriend who, by all practical measures, basically lives there. He is there constantly. He is there enough that his car has become a regular fixture in and around that property, as familiar a sight as the recycling bins or the porch lights. And for reasons that genuinely defy logic, he has developed a habit of parking in a way that blocks her car in completely. Not occasionally. Not as a rare slip-up that anyone could understand and forgive. Roughly 6 or 7 times in the span of just 2.5 months. Over and over again he pulls in without apparently considering, or caring, whether her car is already there and whether he is trapping her. It is hard to know what is going through his mind in those moments. Maybe nothing at all. Maybe he parks, walks inside, and simply never thinks about it again until someone comes knocking. That absence of thought is its own kind of problem. Here is where it starts getting infuriating on a deeper level. When this first started happening, she did the reasonable thing. She called. She texted. She reached out through the proper channels the way any mature adult would when there is a conflict involving someone they care about and someone they want to preserve a relationship with. But there was a pattern on those mornings. A very consistent pattern. The boyfriend would park her in on nights when the 2 of them were out drinking. So by the time she needed to leave in the morning, they were both in a heavy sleep, the kind of deep, unresponsive sleep that follows a long night out, completely unreachable. The phone would ring and ring. The texts would sit there unread. She never got an answer. Not once. Not a single callback, not a single text response, nothing. Just silence while she stood next to a car she could not move with a job to get to and a clock ticking down. Picture that for a moment. Standing outside in the early morning, maybe in the cold, watching the minutes pass, watching your chances of being on time evaporate, and the only thing between you and your day is a car belonging to someone who has no legal right to be in that spot in the first place. So what do you do when calling does not work and you have a job to get to? You go upstairs and you knock. That is what any reasonable person would do. She went up, knocked on the bedroom door, woke them up, and got the car moved. Problem solved that day. And then it happened again. And again. And again. Each time she tried calling first, each time she gave them the opportunity to handle it without her having to physically appear at their bedroom door. Each time the phone went unanswered and she had no choice but to go upstairs. 6 or 7 times she went through this exact same cycle, and not once did the neighbor sit down with her boyfriend afterward and say, "Hey, you need to stop doing this." Not once did she take ownership of the situation that was happening in her own home because of a guest she had invited in. I am sorry, but what is he even thinking when he pulls that car in? Is he looking around? Is he noticing anything at all? By the time we get to that Saturday morning, our narrator has been incredibly patient by almost any standard. She has been dealing with this for months. She has given this situation multiple opportunities to self-correct. She has gone through the proper steps, she has been gracious, she has accommodated furniture on her parking pad without a single complaint, and she has never made a big production out of any of the previous times this happened. She has absorbed every inconvenience quietly. She has woken herself up a little earlier just in case. She has done the mental math of how much buffer time she needs to account for the possibility that she might be blocked in again. She has been living with this low hum of anxiety every time she needs to be somewhere. So when she walks outside on a Saturday morning, she is already running late for work, and she sees that car sitting there again, big and immovable and completely indifferent to her schedule. The frustration that boils up is not an overreaction. It is the completely logical result of months of the same problem being ignored by the people who could have fixed it at any point. She went upstairs. She was not polite about it this time. She said, loudly and directly, that she was running late and that he had parked her in again. He came down and moved the car. That was that. Less than a minute of discomfort and the problem was fixed. And honestly, that is kind of the point, is it not? This situation is always fixable in under a minute. It only keeps happening because nobody is choosing to fix it before it becomes a problem. Okay, but the text that came after. The absolute audacity of that text. 30 minutes later the neighbor texts her and suggests, casually and cheerfully, that she could just park on the street going forward to avoid all this. Just a thought. Just a little friendly tip, offered like a helpful suggestion between friends, like she is passing along a good restaurant recommendation. As if the problem is not that a non-rent paying guest keeps trapping her in her own driveway. As if the solution is for the actual resident, the one with the legitimate spot, to be the one to inconvenience herself permanently so that the boyfriend can continue doing whatever he wants without anyone ever asking him to change his behavior. There is something so specific about the cheerfulness of that text that makes it even harder to take. It was not apologetic. It was not sheepish. It was breezy. Like she was doing her a favor. She pushed back on this and she was absolutely right to do so. She pointed out clearly that the boyfriend does not pay rent. He does not have a spot. He does not have any claim to that driveway whatsoever. They live on a wide street with plenty of available parking and finding a spot is genuinely not a challenge. There is no hardship being placed on him by asking him to park on the street. All he has to do is notice her car already sitting in the driveway and pull around to the front. That is the entire solution. It requires about 30 seconds of basic awareness and zero sacrifice on his part. The neighbor then told her she should have called first before coming upstairs. And this is the part that shows either a very short memory or a deliberate choice to rewrite history. Because she did call first. Every single time. And every single time the call went unanswered. She reminded the neighbor of this. She laid out the entire documented history, the repeated calls, the repeated silence, the 6 or 7 times she had to physically come upstairs because there was no other option available to her. And the neighbor did not apologize. She doubled down. She stood her ground and refused to acknowledge any fault on her end or her boyfriend's end. That choice to dig in rather than soften reveals something. It suggests that this has stopped being about the parking at all and has become about not wanting to be seen as having done something wrong. This is the thing about situations like this that really gets under your skin. It is not just about the parking. It is about what the parking represents. There is a dynamic being revealed here, and it is not a flattering one. The neighbor has been treating the shared space like her personal domain. She put her furniture in the shared parking pad without a second thought. Her boyfriend has been treating it like his personal parking lot without consequence. And now when the person who actually lives there and actually pays rent has had enough and says something, the response is not acknowledgement or accountability. It is deflection and a cheerful suggestion that she step aside and make room for the inconvenience. Consider also the detail about the open door policy. The neighbor regularly lets herself into her apartment. She borrows things. She takes alcohol. She wanders in and out of that downstairs unit with a comfort that speaks to years of genuine closeness and trust. And our narrator has never once complained about this, never once made her feel unwelcome, never created tension over it. That level of generosity and trust has been extended freely and without condition. And yet when something legitimately unreasonable is happening, when a non-resident is repeatedly disrupting her mornings and her schedule and her peace of mind, the neighbor cannot extend even the basic courtesy of acknowledging the problem and telling her boyfriend to stop. The generosity has only flowed in one direction, and that is a pattern worth paying attention to. The relationship dynamic here also deserves attention because it adds a layer to everything. This is not just a neighbor. This is someone deeply embedded in her personal life and family. That kind of closeness comes with a higher expectation of consideration, not a lower one. When someone is that close to you, when they come to your family functions and borrow your vodka and walk in and out of your home freely, the baseline for treating them with respect should be even higher than it would be with a stranger. Instead, it seems like that closeness has led to a kind of comfort that has quietly crossed into entitlement. The assumption that the friendship will absorb whatever comes, that the relationship is strong enough to make up for the inconveniences, that she will keep saying yes because she always has. You do not get to monopolize a shared resource, ignore every attempt at communication, sleep through your guest's repeated mistake, and then tell the person dealing with the consequences to just find another solution. That is not how living with someone works. That is not how friendship works. That is not how basic decency works. Here is where the narrator stands, and she should stand there firmly. She is not in the wrong. Not even a little bit. She gave this situation every reasonable chance to resolve itself quietly. She called. She texted. She waited. She accommodated. She said yes to the furniture when she could have said no. She went upstairs with frustration that was 100% earned. The neighbor owes her an apology, and more importantly, the boyfriend needs to stop parking her in. Those are the only two things that matter here. Everything else is noise. If the neighbor wants to protect this friendship, and given how long they have known each other and how intertwined their lives and families are, she really should want to, she needs to drop the defensiveness and have an honest conversation. Not about where cars park. About the fact that she has been dismissing a real and repeated problem and putting it on her neighbor to deal with. That is the conversation that needs to happen. And if that conversation does not happen, if the neighbor keeps deflecting and the boyfriend keeps parking her in, then she has every right to take this to the cousin who owns the property and get the situation addressed formally. She has been more than gracious. She has been a model neighbor. The ball is entirely in the other court now. My best friend of half my life asked to borrow money, then told me to just get over it. He looked her in the eye, or sent her a message that felt just like it, and told her to get over it. Not sorry. Not I owe you. Just get over it. After she had gone out of her way for him, after she had dipped into her own tight budget to help him take his girlfriend on a date, after she had waited patiently and tried to communicate like an adult. Just get over it. And now she is sitting there wondering if maybe she is the one being dramatic. Let me tell you right now, she is not. Here is how this whole thing started. Her friend came to her and asked to borrow some money. He needed it to take his girlfriend out and promised he would pay her back the following Monday when he got paid. That is a straightforward, simple arrangement. She was not flush with cash herself. She said she was kind of broke at the time, but she did not have much going on and she trusted him. So she handed it over. She did not hesitate, did not negotiate, did not make him feel small for asking. She just said yes, because that is what you do for someone you have known most of your life. She took a hit to her own finances for a friend she had known for half her life, and she did it without making it a whole thing. Monday came and she reached out asking for the money back. Not aggressively. Not with demands. Just asking because she needed it for gas and groceries and did not want to pull from her savings. Picture her sitting there composing that message, keeping it light, keeping it friendly, not wanting to come across as desperate even though she genuinely needed it back. This is a woman who takes her budgeting seriously, who has systems in place to protect her financial security, and she had stretched those systems to help a friend. There is a particular kind of vulnerability in that, in letting someone see that your margins are tight and trusting them not to leave you exposed. Getting that money back on the timeline he promised was not a big ask. It was just holding him to his word. And then he ghosted her. For 5 days he said nothing. No explanation, no heads up, no hey things are tight this week, can I get you back next week? Nothing. Just silence for 5 days, which is not an accident. 5 days of silence is a choice. It is someone hoping the topic just goes away, hoping the person they owe money to gets distracted or loses interest or decides not to push it. And for her, those 5 days were not neutral. Every day that passed without a response was another day of wondering, of quietly recalculating her budget, of feeling the low hum of anxiety that comes with being let down by someone you trusted. She probably checked her phone more than she wanted to admit. She probably told herself he was just busy, just forgot, just needed a little more time. She gave him every benefit of the doubt available to her and he used every single one of them up without a word. After 5 days he finally responded and told her he could not pay her back because he had bills and could not afford to miss the money. And here is the thing that makes this so much worse than just a friend being short on cash. He did not say there was an unexpected expense. He did not say something came up, I had a bill I forgot about, I am really sorry. He just said he had bills, as if that is a new development, as if everyone does not have bills, as if having financial obligations is some surprise event that no one could have predicted. There was no warmth in that response. No acknowledgement of what she had done for him. No recognition that she had gone without so he could take someone out to dinner while she sat at home watching her account balance and hoping he would come through. The implication sitting underneath that excuse is deeply uncomfortable. He had bills the whole time. He knew he had bills when he asked to borrow money. He knew he had bills when he promised to pay her back Monday. He either did not think about it at all, which suggests the promise was casual and meaningless to him, or he thought about it and made the promise anyway knowing he could not keep it. Neither of those options is good. Neither of them is what a trustworthy friend does. And the fact that he could not even muster an apology alongside the explanation reveals something about how he processed the situation. He did not seem to feel that he had done anything requiring one. That is the part that should make your stomach drop a little. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Trustworthy. She gave him that money in good faith. She stretched her own budget on the assumption that he was a person of his word. She was not reckless, she was not naive, she was trusting someone she had known for a very long time and believed she understood. And that trust was not honored. That is what this is actually about. That is what she tried to explain to him. Not the amount, not the inconvenience, but the fact that she made herself financially vulnerable for him and he treated that vulnerability like it was not his problem. This was not about the amount. She said as much and she was right to frame it that way. Because when you look at this situation from a purely financial standpoint, yes, it is frustrating, but the number itself might not break her. But she made that very clear to him. She told him that for all he knew, that could have been her last money. She could have not been able to cover her gas. She could have not been able to buy groceries. She could have missed a bill herself. She made a vulnerable financial choice in order to help him, and he responded to that vulnerability with silence and then an excuse with no apology attached. She was handing him a window into how serious this actually was for her, giving him a chance to understand the weight of what she had done, and he looked through that window and chose to do nothing. Okay, but telling her to just get over it though. Who raised this man? When she tried to explain all of this, tried to have a real conversation about why she was upset, his response was to dismiss her entirely. Get over it. Not I understand where you are coming from. Not I should have communicated better. Not I am working on getting you back. Just a flat, casual instruction to stop feeling what she was feeling. Think about what it takes to say that to someone. You have to believe, on some level, that their feelings are not worth engaging with. That their frustration is an inconvenience rather than a reasonable response to something you did. And somehow that response is almost worse than the original problem, because it shows that even when given a direct opportunity to repair the situation, he chose not to take it. He had every chance to be a decent person and he outsourced the work of that back to her. There is also the timeline of her pulling back to consider. She did not blow up at him. She did not post online about it immediately. She did not go scorched earth. She quietly created some distance, she was less available, she did not reach out the way she normally would. That kind of quiet withdrawal takes restraint. It is the response of someone who is genuinely hurt but who is trying to handle it with dignity rather than drama. And he noticed, and he asked if she was upset, which means he was aware that something had shifted. He felt the absence of her and he named it, which means he had enough self-awareness to recognize something was wrong. He had a chance right there to say, hey, I know I messed up, let me make this right. And instead he told her to get over it. What does it mean when someone has been in your life for half of it and behaves this way? That is the part of this that deserves the most honest examination. Long friendships carry weight in history and genuine love, but they also sometimes carry a false sense of security. Sometimes the length of a friendship gets used as a reason not to take accountability. Like the relationship is so solid that it can absorb anything, that it gives you a pass on being careless with the people in it. That is not what long friendships are for. A friendship of 15 or 20 years should mean the standard is higher, not lower. It should mean you value the person more, not that you can afford to take them for granted. Here is the verdict, and it is not a complicated one. She is not being dramatic. She is not overreacting. She is responding proportionately to someone who borrowed money under a clear agreement, failed to honor that agreement, ignored her for almost a week, gave a non-apology explanation, and then told her to get over it when she expressed how it made her feel. Every single one of those things is a choice he made. Every single one of them communicated something about how much he values her and her time and her trust. Cutting someone off is a strong phrase and it carries weight, especially when you are talking about a lifelong friend. But putting distance between yourself and someone who treats your boundaries and your finances and your feelings as things to be dismissed is not cutting someone off in a cruel or dramatic way. It is protecting yourself. It is recognizing that the way someone treats you in a low-stakes situation tells you everything about how they see you. This was low stakes. This was a relatively small amount of money on a clear timeline. And he still chose himself without consideration or communication. What does that say about the bigger moments? She gave him a chance to make it right. She had the conversation. She explained her feelings clearly and honestly. He told her to get over it. That is his answer. And her response to that answer, which is to step back from the friendship and reassess how much of herself she gives to someone who treats her this way, is not only reasonable. It is exactly the right move. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept. She just decided she is not accepting this. Drop a comment and tell me which story hit harder, because both of these had me going. And if you want more content like this, a like and subscribe goes a long way.